Hello guys, once again I welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to be learning about a tool called Kind. Some people choose to call it Kubernetes Kind. Imagine a scenario where you want to quickly run an application or you want to deploy a load onto a Kubernetes cluster. You will agree with me that it could be very demanding and it could be very tasking when you have to spin up a Kubernetes cluster. Either you want to make use of the cloud resources. Maybe you want to set up Elastic Kubernetes cluster on AWS, or you used to set up AKS on Azure, or maybe you want to set up Google Kubernetes engine on GCP. This could take series of processes and even sometimes could cost you some amount of money trying to spin up these resources, these Kubernetes resources. Imagine all you just need to achieve is to quickly test out if an application is compatible on Kubernetes, or maybe a new version of Kubernetes has been released and you want to check it out if it is okay, if it is working. So this type of problem or this type of challenges that you face in setting up a Kubernetes cluster from scratch, it is those type of problem that Kind has come to solve. Kind allow you to set up Kubernetes cluster locally on your computer within a very short amount of time. Even though there are similar tools that have been developed over the years to solve similar problem, tools such as Minikube or your Kubeadm, but Kind has some advantages over every other similar tools. Then, what is Kind and why Kind? Kind is a tool for running local Kubernetes cluster using Docker containers. So when you are running Kubernetes cluster with Kind, it simply spin up the nodes of the Kubernetes using containers. For every node that runs on the Kubernetes cluster, it is being, or they are being powered by what we call kubelet. Kubelet can otherwise be referred to as the soul of a node. So each node is being powered by a kubelet. So in Kind Kubernetes cluster, the kubelet is run as a container. In this case, a Docker container. And you all will agree with me that Docker containers are very easy to run because they are light. You can spontaneously bring them up and bring them down as the need be. So this is the advantage that Kind brings to the world of Kubernetes, because easily he can use his Docker or Dockerized container capabilities to spin up clusters within few seconds of minutes. What are the advantages that you can get while using Kind other than other tools like Minikube? One, it is lightweight, like I said. It is using container, and you all will agree with me that containers are lightweight objects that you can easily run and bring them down as they need be. So Kubernetes cluster will be running on containers, or will be running as containers when you are spinning them up or when you are building them using Kind. Also, it is easy to set up, like I said, as we are going to see in our demonstration. It is easy to set up Kubernetes cluster using kind. So in this video, we are going to be setting up Kubernetes cluster using kind, both on a Windows machine using a Windows PowerShell and also on a Linux machine using our Linux terminal. Now, what are the requirements? For you to set up your Kubernetes cluster using kind, to set up your cluster using kind on Windows, we're going to be setting one on Windows. We're also going to set it on Linux. Apologies for my bad handwriting. So, what are the requirements for you to use to install kind on Windows? One, there must be a Docker desktop running on the Windows machine, because we needed Docker to run the container. So you must have Docker desktop running on the machine. And after that, we can go ahead and install kind. In this case, I'm going to be installing kind using the system variables method. I will be editing my system variable to install my kind on the Windows machine. While on the Linux machine, the same thing, you need to install Docker. You need to install Docker. When you install Docker on the machine, you need to install kubectl. Kubectl is a tool that allows you to interact with your Kubernetes cluster. So we need to install kubectl. And also, we have to go and install kind. So these are the requirements for both machines, as we are going to see in our demo. So bear in mind that you can choose to run your kind on either Windows or Linux, as the case may be. So first, let's jump onto our Windows machine and install the prerequisites or whatever that is needed to run kind. I've actually done it, so I'm just going to walk you through how it was done. So this is my Windows PowerShell, which I'm having through terminal. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to our terminal and go to kind documentation. Sorry, we're going to go to our browser and go to kind documentation. This is the address kind.6.k.io. So this is the documentation site or page for kind. It is also a product of Kubernetes. So when you click on Quick Start, it's going to show you all the processes needed to install this tool on your machine. Now, there are several ways in which you can install kind on your Windows machine, but I have a very simple way that I use to install it. And what I do is to just go to the top right where you have the GitHub icon. You click on it, and it's going to take you to the GitHub repository documentation. Then on the right-hand side, you scroll down under the releases, you click on releases. And when you scroll down to the bottom, you are going to see all the available releases under assets. Then if you look through, there's one that says kind Windows AMD 64. We also have the same thing for Linux. So I'll just click on it and I'm going to download it. And of course, you can see it has been downloaded. And after it is downloaded, I will go to my download folder This is my download folder, and this is the file that has just been downloaded. So I'm going to rename this file. I'm going to rename it into an executable file, .exe file. You can call it anything, but I just want to call it kind2 for the fact that I have another kind in my, I already have another kind. If you look right down here, I have another kind that I've stored before, so I don't want to duplicate it. So I'll just make it kind2.exe. So I've made it an executable file. So after that, I will now go to my system and search for, before I do that, so I'm going to go into my PC local drive, and I'm going to create a folder called kind. You know how to create a folder, just right click, new, create folder, and then I call that folder, I name it kind. And inside kind, I will copy the file that I've just renamed and copy it into the folder. So, and if you click at the address bar, this is the path to that file. You can see the path is the C drive :/kind. That is the path. So I'm going to need this path. So I'm going to copy the path, and I'm going to go to my window and search for system variables or environmental variables. I'll search for environmental variables, and I'm going to select the one that says, you have two of them, you have the environmental variable. I'm going to select the one that says system variables. So when you get to system variables, you click on environmental variables, and you have the user variable at the top, and you have system variable at the bottom. So I want to make it system wide, so I'm going to be editing the system variable. So inside the system variable, you're going to look for an item called part. This is part here, and I'm going to what? You can click on edit or just double click it, and you are going to add. Now you have several files here. These are part of so many installation. You can see this is part to PuTTY, this is part to AWS CLI, this is a part to SQL. So these are parts to a lot of files that have been configured or that have been installed on this machine. So you can go into any of these files and add your .exe file. But you can as well create a different file. So what I've done is I'll just click new. It's going to create a new file, and I'll just add it. The part that I just copied, C kind, look at it here. You just add it to that new file, and you click OK. You click OK. And when you do this, kind will be available on your machine, and you can go onto your terminal. You can go onto your PowerShell terminal and just type kind. And when you get a response, that tells you that kinds are available. You can see we get a response on what we can do with kinds. So if you look at it, these are very simple commands, and that is how simple it is to use kind. So we are going to be very interested in these two commands, the create command and the delete command. And we're going to be using the create command to create our cluster, and we're going to be using the delete command to also delete our cluster. So you can also type kind, that's help. That can also give you so many other things that you can learn on it. So now we have kind installed on our machines. I'm going to clear my screen. The next thing that must be done is you need to have Docker desktop running on your computer. So I already have Docker desktop. So I'll search for Docker desktop. This is my Docker desktop. I'll click on it. I think it's already running. Let me click on it. Yeah, this is my Docker desktop already running. So you need this to allow Docker to run on your Windows machine. So now that we have Docker set up, we have Docker desktop running, and we have kind also installed on our Windows machine. Then we can go ahead and run some certain command. But before we do that, let's quickly go ahead and set up the Linux platform. We are going to be paying more attention on Linux platform. However, it is good to know how to set it up in Windows. So this is my Linux platform. I'm going to go ahead, for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and spin up an EC2 machine on AWS console that we are going to use for this project. So this is my AWS console. I will click on EC2 at the top here because I have pinned it to the top, so you can quickly go there. If not, you can just come here and search EC2 and it's going to come out and you can select it. But in my case, I already have it at the top here. So now to spin up EC2 machine, I'll click on instance running, click on launch, and then I will now come here. I'm sorry, let me just be sure I have this thing running. Okay, so this is my server. I'm going to give it a name. Let me call it kind server. I'm going to call it kind server. Okay, and I'm going to go with Ubuntu. After that, I'm going to go with Ubuntu. You can select any one, but I like to use a older version. I'm going to go with 2204 LTS. I'm just going to confirm that. I think this is the one. Yeah, SS is the volume. That's correct. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll go with, just to make my processes faster, I'm going to go with T2 medium. I think T2 micro should be okay. So in your own case, you can decide to go with T2 micro. So I'm going to select a key pair. I have this key pair already. And then I'm just going to allow traffic on port 80 SSH and port 443. I'm going to increase the storage to, let's say, 20 GIB of storage, and then I'll just go ahead and launch the instance. So the instance has been launched, and now we'll go ahead. So I'll click on it. This is my instance. So this is the instance that is running. So I'm going to go ahead through the terminal to connect to my instance. So if I just select the instance, I will click on connect, and you can see this is the user. If you use different connect, we have direct EC connect. If you want to connect through the browser, you can use session manager, but I want to use my SSH client. So, and this is it has given us the command to connect to our machine. So I will just go there, then I will go to my terminal, and I'll just paste the command. But you know why this command will not work? I need to show the path to where my key is being saved. Let me quickly show you that. So I'll just clear this. And if I cd into .ssh and I click enter and I click SL, you can see this is my key path. This is my key. So if I do pwd, that will show me where my key is. So I need this part to allow my command to connect to the machine. So my key is inside the home directory under .ssh file. So my command will now be, so if I paste the command I got from there, so I'm going to remove this colon at the top. I will the colon here too. So I'm going to have in SSH-I, then I will have tilde /.ssh. So this is where my key is. This is the part where my key, this is home directory inside .ssh, and I have my key for it. Then I can go ahead and click enter, and I will say yes. And so now I'm connected to my terminal. So I'm going to clear my screen. Now, whenever or anytime you spin up a new EC2 machine or any virtual machine on the cloud, the first thing you want to do is to update the machine. So when you update the machine, it's going to make all the tools available on that machine to make it available. It's going to allow all the tools that is installed on the machine, make them available for you to use. So the first thing you want to do, this is an Ubuntu machine, so I will do sudo apt update. You can even say and sudo apt upgrade. You can do both of them. I'm going to do -y to make it. So you're going to update the machine So all the tools available will be made available to you for use. Now, after this is done, I also said the next thing will be what? To install Docker. So we're going to go ahead and install Docker. So let's give it a few minutes for the updates to be completed, the update and the upgrade. So let's allow it a few minutes. So it's still running, updating and upgrading, making all the available tools on the Linux machine available for you to use. So it's at 98%. Waiting for it to complete. 99% now. Yeah, so that is completed. So it has us to reboot. We are not going to be rebooting anything. So let's just click enter. Yeah. So now our machine is installed. Our machine is updated. So the next thing we want to do now is to install Docker. So you can just type Docker, and it's going to tell you Docker is not available, but it's going to give you the command to install Docker. So I'll just copy this command, and I'm going to paste it here. -y to accept it. So Docker is being installed. Now, whenever you install Docker, it is only the root user that will have. It's only the root user that will have. Okay, to cancel which service you restart. Let's click enter. So it is only the root user that will be able to use Docker as it is. So this is what I'm saying. That's a command we use to check the containers that are running, and that command is docker ps. So if I do docker ps, you can see I got an error of permission denied. But if I do sudo docker ps, you can see that I got a response. So in order to allow all other users other than the root user to use a Docker, then we have to grant Docker the required permission. And how do we do the permission? We'll do sudo user mode -a capital G Docker, then user. Now, what I'm saying in this command is I'm saying I want to grant all user the Docker I want to add all user to Docker group and allow them to run Docker. So if I click this, that permission has been granted, but the permission does not immediately take effect. Normally, you are supposed to restart the machine or log out and log in back. But in order to avoid that, you can just use another command called new group Docker. When you do this, it will immediately be effective. And if I go ahead now and run Docker ps, you can see now it works without the sudo. So now, after we have installed Docker, we'll go ahead and install kubectl. kubectl. So it told me kubectl is not fun. So we can install kubectl by using the command sudo snap install sudo snap install kubectl sudo snap install kubectl, then -- classic. So now what are we saying here? We are installing kubectl. kubectl, which other people call kubectl or kubectl, is a tool that allows you to interact with your Kubernetes cluster. So I will click enter, and it's going to install kubectl. You can see that it's a kubectl. This for canonical has been installed. So we have kubectl. So if I type kubectl now, I'm going to get a response. And you can see that. And finally now, I'll go ahead and install kind. For us to install kind, we have to go back to our kind documentation. And I can just go back to my documentation. And underneath, if you scroll down, you will see for Linux. And you are given 2 commands depending on the architecture of your Linux. How do you know what is the architecture of your Linux? You can know by only the command uname -m. That will give you the architecture of your command. So the architecture of my Linux is what? 8684. So that will now let me know which of the command I'm going to copy. So you can see for 86 AMD 64, which is also known as 8684, we can copy this command. So I'll just copy this command and I'll go ahead and install it. So I'll just copy this command. And I'll go back to my terminal and paste it. Sorry, wasn't copied. I'll go back it again. Go to my terminal. I believe I copied it this time. Then I'll hit enter. So it will first download the file. Then I will go back again to my terminal and copy the next command, which gives the necessary permission to kind. I will go back to my terminal. I'll paste it. And I will go back and copy the last command. You can as well copy everything at the same time, but because of this command that is in between, that's why I decided to copy it one after the other. So I'll also go back to my terminal and paste it. And when you get this, then let's type in kind. You can see that we get a response. So we have kind installed. So on our Linux machine, we have installed Docker, which will help us to run the container. We have installed kubectl, which will allow us to interact with our Kubernetes cluster. And we have installed kind, which will help us to set up Kubernetes cluster. Now, let us go ahead and create a Kubernetes cluster. So if you go ahead and create a cluster with the command kind create cluster. Now, this is just going to create, if I click enter, this is going to go ahead and create a default cluster called kind because you have not indicated anything in the command. The same thing can be done on your PowerShell. If I go to my PowerShell and I said kind create cluster, you'll see it will go ahead and create cluster just like that. So now it's ensuring node image. So it's going to pull the latest version of the image, then it's preparing the node, it's writing the configuration, and it's starting the control plane. And you know what control plane is. So after control plane, it's installing the CNI, which is a container network interface, and it's installing the storage cloud, and the cluster is completed. You can see just within few seconds, kind is able to set up our Kubernetes cluster. And if I go ahead and I said kubectl get, or let me say kind clusters, you can see it has one cluster called kind. And you can see it you should see from the top here, it's told you it's creating a cluster called kind, creating cluster kind. And the same thing you have here. When I said kind get cluster, it gives me this cluster. So let me see what node we have. kubectl. Now that we have a cluster, we can now interact with it to know the node we have and if we have any other resources. So kubectl get nodes. If you like, you can write just node. And you can see there's only one single node, which is the control plane, and it's ready. Let us see if we have any other thing. Let us see if we have pod. kubectl get pods. It said no resources found in the default namespace. Now, you can further customize this you can further customize this cluster by giving it a name. So I'm going to clear my screen, and I'm going to go to kind, create cluster. Then what is the name? If you intend to give it, let me give it a name, and I want to call it prod, like production. So I intentionally put it like this because there's going to be error. I expect to get an error so that I'll be able to pass a message in. So if I click enter, you can see, look at it, it says failed to create cluster, prod. Failed to create cluster. Prod is not a valid cluster name. Cluster name must match this. Look at it. When you are creating a cluster in kind, when you're using kind to create a cluster, the name of the cluster must always be in lowercase and containing any of this. So if you look at the name of my cluster, it has an uppercase P, a capital P. That is why it fails. So I'm going to go back and change it to lower P, and I'm going to click enter. And you can see just within a second, it's going to create a cluster called prod. You can use it to create multiple clusters like dev, testing, as the case may be. I'm going to go ahead and create testing too. So you can see it now. It's starting the control plane. And you can imagine just within less than 30 seconds or thereabouts, a cluster is up and running. Unlike when you want to go through the process of spinning up a cluster on AWS, or you can see this is completed now. So if I go to and I said kind get clusters, let's see what we have. You can see now we have two clusters. We have both the kind cluster and the production cluster. I can go ahead and create multiple cluster on it. Now, there's something we call kubeconfig. A kubeconfig file is the file that contains the credential and configuration that allow for proper authentication with the cluster. It is the kubeconfig that allow you to interact or to authenticate with your cluster. So if I say kind get kubeconfig, let's see if we have anything like that. Get kubeconfig. You can see, look at what we have. So this is your kubeconfig file. It has a cluster, and this is the certificate. And what is the kind? It is the kind that we created. And you can see, if you go through, this is the username, it's the kind, it's the client certificate. So you don't want to mess up with this file, because if anything happens with this file, then there will be problem with your authentication with the cluster. Now, the one that is being given to us here is the default because of this kind, which was created originally by the first command. Okay, so just bear that in mind that a kubeconfig will be created automatically when you are using kind, which is kind of cool, because in other platform you might have to go and create your kubeconfig file by yourself. But let's see. So I'm going to clear my screen now. Now, kind also allow you to create a multiple node or a multiple cluster, a multi-cluster, or a multi-node cluster. If you remember, similar tool like Minikube, which they are ordinarily designed to have a single cluster and a single node, even though you can use Minikube to run more than one node. But by default, they are designed to have that's why we have the word mini, to have a mini cluster with a single cluster and a single node. So how do we create multiple node? Let's go to our documentation again. If you go to our documentation and you scroll down, you click on quick start and you click on advanced. Now, this is how to create a multi-node cluster. So I'm going to be copying this. File, and this file will be creating what? Let's go to our terminal. So I'm going to create a file, let's say VI. I'm going to call it multi-node cluster. Or let me say multi-node .yaml. It must be a YAML file, and I'm going to go ahead and paste my configuration. Now look at the configuration statement here. It says 3 nodes, 2 worker, and 1 control plane. So if you look at it, this command or this configuration is going to create a cluster, and it's going to be using the API version of this configuration, and it's going to be creating 3 nodes. And in that node, is going to be one of them is going to be control plane, and the other 2 will be what? Will be worker nodes. So I've pasted there. I'm going to go ahead and save. I'll save this. No, exclamation. Now that I have the file, so I'll go ahead now and run it. kubectl. Sorry. Kind create cluster -name. Now we have to always give it the name of the cluster. And what is the name of the cluster? Let me call it multi-cluster. And you have to now add the file. How do you add the file? You use the flag -config equals. What is the name of our file? The name of our file is multi-node. It is this file that contains the configuration. So when you click enter, you can see it's creating the cluster now. And the name of the cluster is multi-cluster. It's preparing the nodes. It's preparing the nodes. Let's give it a time. Starting the control plane. And you can see how quick it is. Just less than 30 seconds, you are up and running with your Kubernetes cluster. Let's allow it some time. Okay, I would suggest in your process you could use the EC2 machine of probably a higher instant time, so that you can have probably a higher throughput, and it's going to be faster. So don't forget that we can also do all of this on our we can do all of this in our window PowerShell as well. So let's see. This is taking a little bit of time. It doesn't take this long. I don't know why it's hanging there, but let's allow it some time. So we can also, while this is ongoing, we can explore other things. So if you want to create a control plane with high availability, this is the command here, and you can see why it is highly available. It has 3 control planes. So there is going to be a little downtime. If this control plane fails, this one take over. If this control plane fails, this one take over. And it also has 3 worker nodes that can play along with the file, with the platform. So this is for high availability, and we have different commands that you can run here to create multiple clusters. Now let me go back to see. Yeah, this is strange. It doesn't take this long, so I just click enter. I don't know why it's taking this long. Yeah, it does not really take that long. Okay, so I think we can. Let's see if we can run it here as well. Okay, so I'm going to be using this command, notepad multi-command, because I want to, don't forget, on Ubuntu I use VI or VM, or you can use Nano. Here, those tools are not available here on PowerShell. So I'm going to use this command to to use this command to, I'm going to put it as 1. To use it to what? To configure my, so this is going to open this, and I've just pasted the command. I will go and copy the command again from my V8. This is the same command, which is in my node, and I will save. Control S. So if I've saved it, then I can come here and run the same command. The same command that I just run just now. Kind create I've used it before. Kind create. Okay, yeah. So let's use this. Kind create cluster. Just similar to one I have. Kind create cluster. That's config. And this is the name of the cluster. And I click enter. Okay, say an error. Oh, say the cluster already exists for a cluster with the name kind. Okay, because we have used a similar file before, so I don't want to use that again. So let me try another thing. I'm going to be using Notepad. Let me copy the highly available. Let me copy the highly available. Okay, copy it. Go back here. Then I paste it. Then I save it. Call it multi-cluster 1. Let me see if that works. And I create enter. Oh, sorry. Kind create cluster. Does that config? Let me put a name. I want to create. Let me give it a name. Does that name? And what is the name? I want to call it high availability cluster. I'll just call it cluster high availability. Now I'll click enter. Okay, it's creating it. Let me see how far this has gone. Okay, it has eventually created it. I think so. Okay, not sure. Let us see if it's created. I will clear my screen. Then I will do kind get cluster. Let us see. Okay, kind get kubectl get nodes. Let's see what we have. Okay, still the control plane. So I think probably the cluster failed. Let me try it again. If it's there, it will let us know. Let us see what we have here. Okay, this is creating. Okay, so we're starting installing CNI story classes. So I don't know why it is failing on Ubuntu, but you can see it is getting created on Windows, which is the same. So if we say kind get cluster, sorry, let me clear my screen. Get clusters. So you can see the one I just created, cluster high availability. It's just been created. So, and you can create anything, you can create namespace, just as the case may be. So if you look at it here now, it is very easy for you to create a cluster and a node. You can run multiple nodes, you can run multiple cluster on your Kubernetes using kind. Instead of going through the stress of starting Kubernetes from the scratch, either on cloud or on your computer. So kind is very good for testing out a development environment, for testing patches, or for testing new version of any application that has been released and you intend to use on Kubernetes. So, and it's very easy. You can also go ahead, after you are done, you can go ahead and delete it, just with the same command that you used to create it. So like this now, if I want to delete that now, I have two clusters here. One is called cluster HA, and the other one is called kind. So if I just go ahead, don't forget, if I just say kubectl create cluster, this will create a cluster called kind by default. So if I go ahead and say kubectl kind delete cluster, it's going to delete without mentioning the name of the cluster. It's going to go ahead and delete the kind. You can see deleting cluster kind. Now, if I go back and say get cluster, you can see that kind has been deleted. We have only one cluster HA. So if I want to delete cluster HA, I need to indicate the name. So I will say kind delete cluster, then with the name. And I click this. Sorry. Kind delete cluster. Okay. Because that is the only one left. I click enter. Is delete. Name. And click enter, and to delete the cluster. So you can easily bring up a cluster and delete a cluster almost at the snap of the finger. So that is the advantage of using kind, and I will want you to try it out. So in my next video, I'm going to explain how we can deploy an application using kind. I hope you have gained one or two things in this video. Please, if you liked it, if you gain something from this video, kindly subscribe to my channel, and also like by supporting my channel. Your support will be highly appreciated, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in another video. If you have any question or any comment or any clarification, kindly put it in the comment section, and I will try my best to respond as soon as possible. I will see you in the next video. Peace.